What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the opinionated hippie, and this is part 12 of what I hope is a never-ending series of reactions, not reactions, that's the wrong word, reviews and rankings of Dave's picks, the Grateful Dead series of archival concert releases from the Grateful Dead. I am reviewing them in order. They just announced the release of 44. We are on 12, so we got 32 more weeks, and then by the time we get there, we'll probably have two more releases, probably. No, it'll be a whole year by then. Almost, no, about two or three more releases. But anyways, I'm going to talk about number 12. Then I'm going to show you where number 12 ranks within the other 11. And what is number 12, you're asking? Well, other than what you see down there, it is the complete show from November 4th, 1977. It is a short show. The entire show fits on 2 discs. The bonus material is from November 2nd, 1977, which has already seen material released from that off, which was on a Dick's Picks as a bonus on Dick's Picks Volume 34, which I have somewhere over here. Way up there, right? 34 was ranked highly, right? But anyways, yeah, several songs from the second were already released, and then we get more stuff released from here. And as far as the show that is the main 2 discs, the show from November 4th, 1977, this is what I'm talking about, people. This is good. This is 77 greatness by the Dead. Again, not the longest show. The set list has some weirdness in it. There's a little bit of eclecticism, pism that gets in there. Some really nice song choices throughout the whole thing. And the performances are just fantastic from go to end. It is just a great show. And maybe some of the attraction is it does fit on 2 discs, so it really leaves you wanting more afterwards. But it is why 77 is so fantastic. Like, the sound is amazing, the performances are amazing. Jerry is focused and tight the entire time. There is one moment that I admit kind of doesn't work in sort of an objective sense, but when you listen to maybe not the show in its entirety, but when you listen to the second set in its entirety, I think that one song that I don't think works in the context of everything else. I love this release. Disc 1 contains all of the first set plus 2 songs from the second set. So the first set is just over an hour long. Opens up with a really good Bertha. Then we get a Good Lovin'. Not my favorite segue. I mean, the segue is fine, but not my favorite choice of... I don't like this pairing because I don't like Good Lovin'. But again, it's not a bad Good Lovin'. I think the energy is good. Like, the energy is so good that I'm willing to listen to this Good Lovin'. That's how good the energy is. Then we get a Brown Eyed Women. Always a fan of an early Brown Eyed Women. Love that song. We get a Cassidy. We're still not where Cassidy would be in a couple years when Midland would join the band. But it's got some good energy in it. And then we just get a run of songs that just works perfectly. It Must Have Been the Roses, which I'm a big fan of. A Sunrise, which, despite having easily the worst lyric associated with the Grateful Dead, listen to Sunrise. And if that lyric should jump right out at you, or in other ways maybe infiltrate your senses in a bad way, I kind of like this song, and I like the performance of this song, and I actually think it really works. Sometimes they would throw this like early on in the second set, which I thought was a bad choice. Here in the middle of the first set, I actually like this song, and I think it works. It's a Donna song. Then we get a New Minglewood Blues that has some good energy that I like, and then phenomenal 1-2 punch to end the set. Dupree's Diamond Blues feels a little bit slower than even that early album version, but great energy, great song. Song they definitely did not play enough, but I love everything about the song. And then a just ridiculous Let It Grow. Just like Jerry pushing the envelope, the jam after. So we get the song and then it ends, and then usually like in like 73 and 74, Let It Grow would continue to jam and kind of go into another song. Well, there's sort of that post-vocal jam, and it kind of feels like it's going to go into another song, but you know it's not because I've seen the set list. But it just kind of keeps building and building, and they find a way to kind of like bring it back to like do, 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 and then bring it back to that moment, and then like gracefully end it. But it's just a 14-minute Let It Grow. Not a Weather Report suite into Let It Grow. A 14-minute self-contained Let It Grow to end the second set. That is just bonkers. That is fantastic. That puts a like huge cherry right on the top of what is a really good Sunday to open the show, to open the set, the first half of the show. Second set continues on disc 1. Phil introduces all the band members as having the last name Jones. Look, it's Mickey Jones. It's Jerry Jones. He makes some names. It's Bob. No, Bob Jones would be a name. Starts making up names, introduces people to Joe's. Obviously, everybody's having a good time. We get a Samson and Delilah. That is some really, really good energy. The drums are ultra present in the mix in the best way possible. And the middle of this jam and that solo that I want to say this is another case where it's not the solo that's in the actual song, but there's that solo. And then after they do the vocals, there's kind of another solo. Jerry and Phil in particular, some of the things Phil is playing just really inspires Jerry to like just kind of keep pushing it and pushing it. And this really has some really, really good energy for a Samson. And when it ends, and then they usually go back into the reprise, Jerry immediately goes dun 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 bum bum, heads us right into a Cold Rain and Snow, but he plays it a little more distorted than he normally plays it, so it has this like a fuller sound, and it just works perfectly. 1, it prevents Bob from doing a reprise in Samson. 2, it's a surprise second set Cold Rain and Snow. 3, it's a ridiculously well-performed Cold Rain and Snow. It just sounds good, and it perfectly sets up the entirety of disc 2, which is the rest of the second set. Opens up with the playing in the band. And this playing in the band sounds perfect. Sounds like they're just going to finish that song and take off for outer space. But they don't. Like, we're almost at a full boil at the end of this playing in the band. Like, the energy so far on the set is good, but they like turn that thing all the way down to simmer, man. And it's just like, it's just simmering there. Like, nothing's happening. Jerry, no, you can't hear Jerry. Jerry either broke a string, smoked a cigarette, had to take a pee break, or decided to just sit back and chill because Jerry's out. And once everything gets down to like a simmer, maybe not a simmer, maybe 1 on the oven dial, like Jerry just kind of like, oh, I'm back, I'm back, and like flying around, fluttering like a butterfly, and like couple times it feels like we're going to reach like maybe more of a full boil, but then immediately they just kind of bring it back down, right? No, we're going to keep this playing kind of nice and chill. And it definitely is not one of those playing where like, if you were to like say, like you had like 10 playing in the bands to like show to somebody over the course of the Dead's history, you're like, this is not one of the ones I think you would pick. I think there were much better playing in the bands. But in the context of this show, with all that energy in the first set, with the energy of the Samson in the Cold Rain, with what is going to follow, this playing is just perfect. It works so incredibly well. And like the first time I heard it, I was like, oh man, don't bring it back down. Like, we needed to take off. But after listening to it a couple times, this might be my favorite part of the whole show. Like, they hit that like solo, that jam section, and it's just like, you can just feel them like, oh no, okay, shh. Right? So it's about 13 minutes long. So what we get like 9 minutes of jamming. At the end, it starts to get crazy. We start to get a little bit of energy for maybe 30, 40 seconds. And Jerry tears into Eyes of the World. This is an aggressive Eyes of the World. It is just, the drummers are really present again. They're really in this mix. Phil is attacking. And this has a very, I don't want to say ferocious, but it has some very aggressive Eyes of the World energy, but in a good way. They're not selling it too hard, but they're definitely hitting it hard. Jerry's going for the throat in all the solos. The ending jam is epic. The jams between them, I think it's that second one between the second and third verses, which is really the one that really kind of takes it to a new level, but just a ridiculously solid Eyes that eventually winds down into an Estimated Prophet that sounds really good. The estimated jam is sort of your typical estimated jam, but the energy is good. The band is playing fantastic. That stays, pretty, the estimated jams aren't a simmer, but they're a low boil. This stays at a low boil until all of a sudden it's like, oh wait, we're going to do the other one. And they just full on jump into a full on other one. Phil does a little mini bass run. They go into it. They attack pretty hard. We get one set of lyrics, and then we jam again before we go off into a drums. But it's like 4 minutes and 25 seconds of the other one. Like, we all want way more other one. But in the context of this show, with that chill plan, that ridiculously aggressive eyes, the really just estimated being a solid estimated, and this 4.5 minutes of other one is just like exactly what we needed. It's just like the perfect amount of aggression for what this show needs. We get a drums, pretty typical drums. Then we get the moment that out of context does not work. And I don't think, personally, it's a song I don't think kind of ever works. Every once in a while, they do with this song what I think they should do more often with this song. But they play an Iko Iko. I think this is only the third or fourth Iko Iko they've ever played. So it's pretty new. They haven't quite figured out what they're doing with it. It's a little too laid back, a little too mellow. And the problem with it is they stick with that beat the entire time. Not that Not Fade Away beat that I just clapped out, but whatever that Iko Iko beat is, the drummers stick with that the entire 10 minutes. And it sort of limits, I think, where the band can go. And I always thought this was a perfect song to do something more like a Not Fade Away, where you have that rhythm firmly defined to start and end the song. But in the middle, you deviate from it and you go places. But it seems like with Iko Iko, they very, very, very rarely had that deviation. And this is one of those where the middle does just get kind of like, oh, I go all day. It's just kind of that repetitively for minutes and minutes. But I don't know, it works. It works for me. I like it. I like the chill vibe. I like to just like sit back and like let them just kind of do their thing. Reminds me of Mo. Mo is a good jam band, which will take a groove and just let that groove sit and simmer and kind of soak in the flavor before they go somewhere else. Usually they go somewhere else within the context of the song. The Dead don't, because the Iko Iko kind of doesn't really ever go somewhere else. But all that energy that they're just kind of letting build up goes right in to a Stella Blue that might be the best Stella Blue of ever. That's a hard one to call because there are some fantastic Stella Blues, but this closing solo on this Stella Blue, Jerry's performance on the Stella Blue, the energy, it coming after that Iko Iko, which had simmering under it some energy, but it just never was like, they never took advantage of it. It all goes into the Stella Blue, and I think it works perfectly. And it's sort of the perfect, like, all of the weird energy of the entire show is put into this performance. And it's not the last song of the set, but it feels almost like why the set exists is to get to that Stella Blue. Then we have a playing in the band. We got some jamming and then a reprise to finish out the set. And then we have a pretty good Johnny Be Good as an encore. Just not the craziest show, but it's like when the Dead are at their best at just being the Dead. That's what this show is. Absolutely perfect 2 discs, if you ask me. Even with that somewhat lethargic, to be honest, Iko Iko. But I think the lethargy works. The third disc is a bunch of random tracks from 11-2, put in order. Bunch of songs from the first set, a couple songs from the second set. But with one really weird exclusion. That maybe we're still going to see released somewhere else, only because we now almost have everything released from this across 2 different releases. But the third disc, we got a Promised Land opener, They Love Each Other, which kind of sets the tone, I think. I think when They Love Each Other a second, kind of sets the tone that this is going to be not a high energy show, but more of a slow burn and intense show. And I think that's the way it kind of plays out, at least for the first set. We get a Promised Land, They Love Each Other, or Me and My Uncle, Big River, a Candyman, really nice. I wish we could hear more Candymans. A Looks Like Rain, which is some pretty good Jerry work at the end, and then a pretty solid Ramble on Rose. But then we jump to a couple songs from the second set. But what was left out of the first set, the last 3 songs of the first set as it was played on that night, were Lazy Night Lightning, Supplication, Might As Well. As far as I'm concerned, you can get rid of the Promised Land, the Me and My Uncle, the Big River, the Looks Like Rain. I'll even give you the Ramble on Rose. If you give me that Lazy Lightning Supplication, might as well. So I'm thinking, since it sounds so good and we already have so much from this show, maybe one day we'll get that as bonus material on something else. Maybe it's on a later Dave's pick and I didn't realize it was there when I'm having this conversation with you now. So we'll find out, but I don't think it appears on anything else. So maybe it's still to come 33 releases later. But anyways, then the last tracks on this, we get the Scarlet Fire from the first set. The Fire is kind of hastily kind of run through and it amounts to much. It's got good energy, but it's really the Scarlet. That Scarlet Jam is good. The transition into Fire is epic. It just sounds like a really good 77 Scarlet Fire. Not the most epic one, but definitely nothing that you would ever scoff at. And then we get the encore, which is Terrapin Station, which is my favorite Dead song. Absolutely love that song. I could hear as many Terrapin Stations as you want to put. You can put a Terrapin Station as a bonus track on every release, and I would be a happy man. So a really good third disc. Like, I like the sequencing to go from, like, keep the songs in order, even though songs are missing. It feels good, and that Scarlet Fire Terrapin is the last 3 songs is a very nice way to end the disc. But I do think the best part about this is that complete 11/4 show. Those first 2 discs, just perfect. Energy, set list, song choices, nice and concise, not too long. But yeah, absolutely a spectacular release. Where would it go? Right there, number 3. I think it's those top 3 on this list that are by far the best things of the Dave's picks. I think you have those top 3. You kind of have a little gap in consistency. Like, those top 3, I think, are just great from start to finish. The ones below it have really, really fantastic moments, but maybe aren't as strong. The bottom 2, I think, are just good to great, but don't have those truly epic moments. But yeah, this is how I would rank them so far. And I would say, if you're going to check out the Dave picks, 1, 2, and 3 are my favorite by far, and I think are the ones that definitely stand out amongst the crowd thus far. But anyways, yeah, that's all I got to say about this fantastic release. Been a long day at school, but it's got me really hyper and I'm talking a lot. So anyways, that's all I got to say. Thanks for watching. If you've heard this or check it out or whatever, let me know your thoughts and all of that. Subscribe, like, comment, and most of all, thank you for watching. And go listen to music, people. Go listen to music. Peace.